Everybody's got a friend who started running 6 months after you and now leaves you in the dust at every group run. And nobody talks about why, because the truth is uncomfortable. Most runners aren't training, they're just suffering on repeat and calling it progress. You've felt it. That gut punch when someone half your experience blows past you on a Saturday long run, breathing easy, smiling even, while you're out there negotiating with your own lungs. And the worst part is you've done everything right. You've read the blogs. You've bought the shoes with the carbon plate everyone swears by. You've logged the miles. So why does it feel like you're running in wet cement while other people are running on rails? Here's the uncomfortable answer nobody wants to say out loud. It's not about how hard you're running. It's about how badly you're running easy. Let that sit for a second, because I promise you, by the end of this, you're going to look at your training log and feel a little sick, in a good way. Let's start with the checkup nobody asked for. If I looked at your last 10 runs right now, I'd bet real money that 8 of them were run at roughly the same effort. Not easy, not hard, just medium. The gray zone. The zone where you feel like you're working, you're breathing a little heavy, you could hold a conversation but you wouldn't want to, and you finish tired but not destroyed. Congratulations, you've just described the exact effort level that builds the least amount of long-term fitness per minute spent suffering. This isn't a hot take. This is decades of exercise physiology research on elite endurance athletes, distilled down by a Norwegian sports scientist named Steven Seiler, who spent years pulling training logs from cross-country skiers, rowers, and distance runners at the top of the sport. And what he found over and over in study after study is that elite endurance athletes spend around 80% of their training time at low intensity, genuinely easy, almost embarrassingly easy, and only about 20% at high intensity, hard enough to actually hurt. There's barely anything in between. They call it polarized training, and it's not a trend. It's not a TikTok hack. It's just what happens when you look at what actually separates people who improve for a decade from people who plateau in 8 months and start blaming their shoes. Now here's the part that stings. Most recreational runners do the exact opposite. They run their easy days too hard because slow feels like giving up, and then they run their hard days too soft because they're already fried from yesterday's easy run that wasn't easy at all. So you end up living permanently in that gray zone, never resting enough to actually absorb the hard work, and never going hard enough to force real adaptation. You're not training, you're marinating in fatigue, and your body, which is smarter than your ego, responds accordingly. It does the bare minimum to keep you alive at that effort, and nothing more. Let's talk about why that gray zone effort feels productive, even though it barely is, because this is where the psychology gets brutal. Discomfort feels like proof. If you finish a run breathing hard and a little wrecked, your brain hands you a participation trophy. Good job, you worked hard, you earned this. But your muscles and your mitochondria don't care about your feelings. They care about specific, measurable stimulus. And here's a number that should make you rethink your entire week. In one well-known Norwegian training study, runners who spent 8 weeks adding heavy strength training, low reps, high load, twice a week, nothing fancy, improved their running economy by about 5%, meaning they used 5% less oxygen to run at the exact same pace. 5% doesn't sound like much until you realize that's often the entire gap between a personal best and a disappointing race. Nobody got faster in that study by running more miles at medium effort. They got faster by doing something completely different from what they were already doing, and by making their genuinely easy days, actually, insultingly easy. So here's your cliffhanger for the day, because I want you sitting with this. What if the reason you're stuck isn't a lack of effort, but a surplus of the wrong kind of effort? What if you've been treating trying hard as the goal, when trying hard at the wrong time is actually the thing sabotaging you? Keep that thought parked because we're about to get specific. Let's talk about what easy actually means, because I guarantee your definition is wrong. Easy does not mean a little challenging. Easy means you could hold a full conversation, sing badly, complain about your boss, all while running without gasping between words. If you can't talk in complete sentences, you are not running easy. You are running medium, and medium is the thief that's been stealing your progress for months, maybe years. Elite runners run their easy days at what looks, to an outside observer, like a jog your grandmother could keep pace with. That's not because they're lazy. It's because that so-called boring pace is doing quiet, unglamorous work, building capillary density, increasing mitochondrial efficiency, teaching your body to burn fat instead of torching your limited glycogen stores, all without accumulating the kind of fatigue that wrecks your next hard session. Meanwhile, your hard days, when you actually do them, need to be hard enough to matter. Not kind of pushing it. Genuinely uncomfortable. Interval hard. The kind of hard where you finish and you're relieved it's over. Not the kind where you finish and think, yeah, that was fine. Two clear zones. Almost nothing in between. That's the whole secret. And it's been sitting in exercise science journals for 20 years, while everybody keeps buying new shoes instead. Here's a question worth asking yourself honestly, and I want you to actually answer it instead of skimming past. On your last 5 easy runs, could you have held a full conversation the entire time without gasping? If you're being honest, and most people aren't, the answer is probably no. And that's not a character flaw. That's just what happens when nobody ever explained the actual mechanism to you. And your only feedback loop was, did I feel like I worked? Feeling like you worked and actually stimulating the right adaptation are two completely different things. And confusing them is probably the single most expensive mistake in recreational endurance training. Let's get practical, because I'm not here to just make you feel bad about your training log. I'm here to fix it. Step 1, and this is going to feel almost insulting. Slow down your easy runs, not by 10 seconds a mile. By 30, 60, sometimes 90 seconds a mile, slower than what you currently think of as easy. If your ego is screaming right now, that's exactly the sign you needed this. You are not training to impress the people who see your pace on a fitness app. You're training to build an aerobic engine that lets you run fast later without falling apart. Step 2. When you do go hard, actually go hard. Pick 1, maybe 2 sessions a week. Intervals, tempo work, hill repeats, something that genuinely hurts in a controlled way, and commit fully. No holding back to save something for tomorrow's easy run, because tomorrow's easy run should be so easy it doesn't need saving for. Step 3, and this is the one people skip. Add something outside of running entirely. Remember that 5% economy improvement from heavy strength training? Twice a week, 15 to 20 minutes. Squats, lunges, calf raises, loaded and heavy, not some circuit class with pastel dumbbells. You're not trying to get sore. You're trying to teach your nervous system to recruit muscle fibers more efficiently so that every single stride costs you less oxygen. That's free speed. Nobody talks about it because it doesn't involve buying anything shiny. Here's a number that should genuinely surprise you if you haven't heard it before. Some research on recreational runners has shown that a meaningful chunk of them, not a small minority, a real chunk, are running the vast majority of their weekly mileage in a heart rate zone that's technically classified as moderate to hard when they believe they're running easy. Their perception and their physiology have completely disconnected. They think they're being smart and conservative. Their heart rate says otherwise. That gap between what you think you're doing and what you're actually doing is where most people's progress goes, to die quietly, without a funeral, without anyone noticing until they hit month 8 of feeling exactly the same as month 1. Let's push on that contradiction for a second, because it's the kind of thing that reframes everything once you actually see it. Common sense tells you that more effort equals more results. That's true almost everywhere in life. Work harder, get promoted, study more, get better grades. Running breaks that rule, and it breaks it specifically because your body doesn't adapt during the effort. It adapts during the recovery from the effort. If every single run costs you the same moderate toll, you never actually recover, which means you never actually adapt, which means all that effort is just expensive treading water. The people who improve fastest aren't the ones suffering the most total minutes per week. They're the ones who are strategic about when they suffer and disciplined about when they absolutely do not. I want to bring this back to that friend who's leaving you behind. It's tempting to think they've got better genetics, more free time, some secret supplement stack. Maybe. But more often than not, if you actually looked at their training, you'd find something almost boring. They run slow on their easy days, embarrassingly slow, slower than you'd ever let yourself run in public. And then, once or twice a week, they go somewhere you never go, genuinely, uncomfortably hard. That contrast, that polarization, is doing more for their fitness than your consistent gray zone grinding ever could, even if your total weekly effort feels higher. Effort isn't the currency here. Correctly placed effort is. Here's another surprising piece of the puzzle, because I promised you real substance and not vibes. Running economy, basically how efficiently your body uses oxygen at a given pace, can vary by as much as 30% between two runners with the exact same VO2 max. Same aerobic engine size, wildly different fuel efficiency. That's why two people can have identical lab test numbers, and one of them runs a marathon 40 minutes faster than the other. Economy is trainable. It responds to strength work, to cadence adjustments, to years of accumulated easy mileage done at the right effort. It does not respond to grinding out more medium effort miles, hoping something changes through sheer accumulation. So let's land the plane on the aha moment, because I want this to actually change what you do this week, not just make you nod along and then run the exact same way tomorrow. The runners who improve fastest aren't more disciplined than you in some abstract moral sense. They're not tougher. They've just stopped confusing discomfort with progress. They've made peace with running slow, genuinely slow, on the days that are supposed to be slow. And they've made peace with running brutally hard on the rare days that are supposed to be hard. Everything in between, that comfortable, uncomfortable medium effort you've been living in, is where fitness goes to stagnate. The next time you lace up for what's supposed to be an easy run, and you feel that itch to push, to chase someone, to close a gap on your pace, that itch is the exact thing that's been keeping you exactly where you are. Resist it. Run slower than feels acceptable. Then, on your next hard day, stop being so polite to yourself and actually go there. That contrast is the whole game. Something's shifting in how you think about your next run right now, isn't it? Good. Hold on to that discomfort, because discomfort with your old habits is usually the first sign you're about to change them. And speaking of things that happen while you're doing basically nothing, next episode, we're getting into a 10-minute routine you can do right before bed that keeps your body burning calories through the night and sets you up to run better the next morning. No equipment, no excuses, 10 minutes before you fall asleep. You're going to want to see this one. If this hit home, do me a favor and hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching this from. I read every single one. Share this with the one friend who needs to hear it more than you do. And if you want to go deeper, the membership link is pinned right below in the comments. See you in the next one.